Ethan Page. I don't know if he was released or if his contract expired or if he got fired. None of that has been reported. But he is definitely no longer with AEW or Ring of Honor anymore. He is no longer in the company. He hasn't been on television since December. It looked like he was trying to, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select. Sorry, I want to make sure I give them the credit because this is their story. He had been trying to get out of his deal since February, and he is now officially out of the company. And I for him to move from Canada into the States, uproot his whole family for this job, and for him to want to get out of the deal makes me believe that he has another deal in place. He was like confidently wanting out of that. He started up his Alpha One wrestling promotion in Canada again, so maybe he's just going back. But if you typically don't give up a paycheck unless you know you got a bigger paycheck waiting, or at least a commensurate or a decent deal waiting that's going to make you more happy. But he's back to promoting wrestling, and who knows where he'll go next. I do think there's money with an Ethan Page, Josh Alexander feud in TNA. There might even be some real life heat there that they could play off of, but they're both professionals. I think they can get it done. Right. Like, I don't think that they're like hate each other and all that. Nothing like that. So, but I do think there's money in it. Now, he didn't leave on the best of terms, but it wasn't like he burned it down on the way out. But if you guys remember, I think the original Hard to Kill, Io, you're in the chat. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was the original Hard to Kill that Ethan Page did, the Ethan Page versus Karate Man kind of thing that he did. It was like because it was pandemic era and they were really into doing a lot of these cinematic style matches. And so he did a cinematic style match with himself, and it was awful. Yeah. So yeah, Io confirmed it was Hard to Kill 2021. It was the debut of Kenny Omega, and a lot of eyeballs were on that one, and it was awful. Like, I remember like covering it at the time, and I didn't have a podcast yet. I was just writing. I was writing for my own website, the old Combat Republic site. That's probably where a lot of you guys, discovered me on. And I was just disgusted by it. And he didn't like it either. He actually, that was his last night in the company. He ended up killing himself, ripping his own heart out and dying. And he ended up on his own personal Patreon burying the whole thing, saying there was nothing that he thought it was going to be. It was poorly edited. It was poorly produced. It was all this stuff. And basically burying the production company on the way out and the creative on the way out. And then he ends up heading over to AEW, and AEW just never worked out for him. It just did. And I talked about it on the Mike and JD show this week. Like, some people just don't have big room charisma. Everybody was like, Ethan Page is going to be a great heel. He could end up being a top heel in the company. I'll be honest, I thought the same thing, because I was like, guy can work. He's a good worker. He's a really good promo. He's a big guy that at the time he was in shape because he was getting his contract abs, right? That you see people get whenever their contract's about to be due. They start working out harder. You see it in pro sports too, like contract years for NFL players. They typically like have their best year, because they're trying to, leverage like, hey, this is what I'm capable of, and to try to get to maximize their money. And so Ethan Page was doing the same thing on his way out of TNA. And, but he ended up insulting the production crew and creative on the way out. And he had a reputation for being a bit of a complainer there, but like, not like a disruptor, not like a cancer, not anything like that, not getting into fights with people, nothing like that. But that was a little bit of his reputation. I think that you can overcome that. I really do. But he also did the same thing to Evolve when he left Evolve, to the point where people are, earmarking him to go to NXT. If Gabe Sapolsky is involved in any way in NXT, I don't know that he goes there, because that's like legitimate mega heat between him and Gabe Sapolsky. It's brutal there. So, but if he did go to NXT, I think he would do well in NXT. But again, it's like, he's in his mid 30s now, probably getting closer to 40. What he is what he is at this point. I don't think, I don't see much of an upside from what he already is. And so I think that the level of performer that he's at, with the history that he has in Impact Wrestling from his days with the North and Josh Alexander, and plus his love of TNA, I think that you could do something with Ethan Page in TNA. Especially you could bring him in and be an opponent for Josh. Even if that's just all that they do is just have him as an opponent for Josh. I think that you could do that. And then on the side he can do his Alpha One, his indie promotion that he has. So I think a lot of what they went through before is easily forgivable, and especially when you got money tied to it at the end, I think that would be cool. And it would not shock me to see him in TNA. I'm probably not in a long-term deal because only special guys are getting those things, like Macklin and Santana and Gresham, and so I'd be surprised if they trusted Ethan Page to sign him to a long-term deal. But if you get him on like a per date and book a feud with him and Josh, like here's what I would do. Fantasy book time. So I would Moose versus Josh Alexander should be at Slammiversary for the title. Although I would not make that the main event. I think the main event should be Speedball and Mustafa Ali. I think that's the money in Montreal. Speedball and Mustafa, and for the X Division title with Speedball going over. I that should be the main event of Slammiversary. But like either or maybe you put him like first or middle of the card. Do a big match, whatever, like gimmick, steel cage, something like that between Josh Alexander and Moose, and Ethan Page costs Josh the match. And then boom, you book your 3-month feud between Ethan Page and Josh Alexander, culminating in Bound for Glory, a heated blood feud. That's what I would do. And then if Ethan Page impresses you with his behavior and with his work and everything, and then at that point, then you talk about signing him to a long-term deal, because probably around Bound for Glory is when more contracts will fall off, or at the beginning of next year, more contracts will fall off. Like, Speedball's probably gone next year, and probably some other people, because they only sign 1-year deals. So Speedball is like a multiple year, but you know what I mean? Like there's other people in the company that have signed recently that are probably only on like a 1-year deal. So, and Io, yeah, it says, the story is there, jealous Ethan. Yeah, look, because everybody thought that Ethan Page was going to blow up when he went to AEW, and that Josh was going to be left in the dust. And really, AEW signed the wrong member of the North, and Brandy Rhodes actually said that to him in a promo whenever Ethan and Cody Rhodes were about to feud. They actually said that. It's like, we should have signed Josh Alexander. And you know what? She's right. She's right. Josh was better. Josh was absolutely better. And so AEW brings him in, and it's like, oh shit, we should have signed Josh instead. I think they wanted them both, but Josh didn't want to go. Or maybe Josh was on, like, his contract wasn't up yet. I think he had more time on his deal. And so they're like, oh, fuck, we'll just get Ethan and then we'll grab Josh later. And then Josh just liked where he was at. And so, and Josh signed like a multiple year deal, like a 3-year deal. So with Impact. So I mean, it's there. It really is there. I think there's some money in that feud, and that really could draw some attention. And be a big match. Look, is it going to be like a crazy money drawing? No. But like for TNA level, I think that would absolutely work. You got heat. Personal issues draw money, right? And there's a personal issue there, and there's a ready-made story. I think that's the way to go. But yeah, so Ethan Page, I 100% they should bring him in. They really should. And lastly, on the news front, there wasn't a ton of news, but it was just posted this morning that Thursday's Impact on Access TV was they got 80,000 viewers with a 0.02 rating, and it was number 123 on the charts, number 123 out of 150. So for nothing, there must have been nothing on television that night for that to get at 80,000 to make the charts. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty wild there. For that to make the charts at 80,000.